education, right? Can you help us connect the dot between education and leadership?
So I think one of the two critical factors which makes us unique to be able to connect that link between leadership as well as education has been, number one, a very strong focus on research, and I'm not just talking about research at higher education, but even creating that spirit of research at the school level, number one. Number two, and I guess this is coming from Mr. Nadar directly in his own personal journey, but really the spirit of entrepreneurship. I think those two, so research on one side, entrepreneurship at the other, you know, even when we're talking about school students at VidyaGyan or even at the Shiv Nadar school, I mean, simple things like during the summer, we don't give them a summer project or a summer homework. We just tell them, you come from villages, identify a problem, and there are many problems, go and solve it. And you'll be amazed that in the 2 months that they're away, they come back with a solution. You know, it could be something as simple as a student saying, you know, I was in my village and in the summer we went to a mela, you know, and I realized that there were no dustbins and everybody was eating ice cream. So I went to the local vendor who, you know, makes the tokri, whatever you call it, and then we sourced a bunch of dustbins all over the village. It's as simple a solution like that, but it requires a certain entrepreneurial bent. So how do you push your students? And I think that's what really, if you look at it, leaders globally have in common, right? They just have a certain spirit.
Yeah. So, VidyaGyan, you came back to India 2008 after Kellogg.
Yeah.
How did it all begin?
So the genesis of VidyaGyan was really interesting. It wasn't my idea. It was actually Mr. Nadar's idea and TSR Subramania. TSR used to sit on the HCL Technologies board. He was a former cabinet secretary of India, and he was the chairman of VidyaGyan before he stepped down. And you know, I think they're both good Tamilians who did very well in Uttar Pradesh. You know, and it's true, you know, he was Chief Secretary of Uttar Pradesh before he became Cabinet Secretary of India, and well, Mr. Nadar is really, his life was born in Uttar Pradesh, and they're like, you know, even though we're good Tamilians, you know, I think we should do something for the state of Uttar Pradesh because the state has given us so much in our careers in life. And, you know, and this is all hearsay, by the way. You know, apparently it was discussed over a drink, so anything is possible. And then, you know, I think there was a discussion that they said, but we should do something at the school level. And, you know, because there are enough philanthropists, I think, in India, including Mr. Nadar himself, who had already forayed into higher education. But there are very few who are actually looking at quality school education. I think a lot of people look at government schools and how can we make them better and how can we intervene and, you know, how can we, you know, touch 200 schools at one point and 100 million people at one point. But where are there quality schools in rural India? There are enough quality schools in urban India, you know, but where are the quality schools in rural India? So that's really how VidyaGyan came about. And I think from their own experience, they said even for the state of Uttar Pradesh, you know, being the largest state in the country with a population of 200 million, which by the way is the 6th largest country in the world. We don't have to even think about India. And are we getting leaders from Uttar Pradesh? Now, even political leadership, I mean, let's just be honest, abysmal. You know, but Uttar Pradesh, because of what TSR's own experience, has the best cadre of IAS officers in the country. You know, and IAS itself is still very much aspirational, and a lot more aspirational in rural India than is in urban India. In urban India, everybody wants to be an engineer or a doctor. You know, so, but the IAS dream still stays and it's still very strong. So how do we give fire to that dream, but at a much younger age? You know, and we were also looking at models like I saw in the handout in front of you, you know, the Doon schools or the Mayos or, you know, the Wellams or the Sanars or even the top schools in and around Delhi, your Shrirams and your Vasant Valley. I mean, there are leaders coming out of those schools. There are very bright students coming out of those schools. But let's be honest, the most common link with them is that they're very privileged, elite children. So we're talking about, this absolutely untapped pool of talent, which, I mean, how is it possible that when 60% of India is rural, that means 600 million people, that there are no gems? It's not possible. We have to go and find them.
Absolutely.
But it's not possible that they're not there. And the truth is, sometimes they never make it to college because they don't have the platform. So we have to find them at school. And that's how VidyaGyan came about. It has to be at school.
So the fundamental situation which in the concept stage, when you were debating to set this leadership academy, when the fact that it's called VidyaGyan Leadership Academy is to focus on creating leaders. It's not focusing on literacy as a theme. I mean, literacy is given, but the end result is to create leaders.
Absolutely.
Right? And I remember this actually struck out in the mail which you had written as well, of the extreme emphasis on creating the leaders of tomorrow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Perfect. What is it about day one in VidyaGyan school when these 12-year, 11-year-old, rural kids walk in? Can you just give a sense on how it is day one, hour zero?
It's amazing. So firstly, when a student gets admitted to VidyaGyan, and I'll discuss the admissions process, which in itself is amazing because it takes us 6 months. Every year, 6 months is spent finding these amazing children. They come to campus, and even though we always send them a letter saying that please only come with one parent, every child inevitably comes with 2 parents and 5 siblings. It's like the entire family comes to campus. It's amazing. And what we do is and what's beautiful to see is the first day that they come on campus, we also say that it's completely free, so you're going to get your uniform as soon as you come on campus, and you'll get your entire kit. But their mothers and fathers dress them in their fineries. So it's like they all come dressed beautifully, like they're dressed to go to a wedding. Like that's the way they're coming to school, and I think maybe it's the beginning of a new life and a new journey. And they come to campus, and we